Okay, I think we're gonna get started again in the interest of time. Thank you all so much. I hope that you all had a great time in your panel discussions and your breakouts. Show of hands, anybody learn something new? Yes, awesome. Anybody meet somebody new? Awesome. Anybody plan to do something different in their lives? All right, that's what I like to see. That's great. Thank you all. All right, quick couple of announcements before we move into the last part of this day. That is that this has been recorded and the link is available on your program. So if you want to go back and review the early session or this session here in the afternoon, the vulnerability analysis or Ms. Patterson, please, you can take a look at that link and you can get more information there. And we will be, I think, sending out an email, it sounded like, to folks who registered with some of the materials from the day. So know that that is coming. And with that, I'm going to turn it over and ask each of our mayors to come up for 5 minutes or so and share with you a little bit about what was discussed in their breakout sessions and some of whatever they want to share about what their communities are doing around climate change. So with that, we will start, I guess we'll start to the east, and we'll start with Miss Jacqueline Randall, Mayor of Hawthorne.
Good afternoon. It has certainly been a pleasure to be here and be a moderator, but also a student. And so when I was first asked to do this, I think that was the first question that I asked myself. I'm not an expert at climate or climate change, so what is they expect to hear from me? But then when I got the full instructions of what to do, I took it on head on. And also with the understanding that I needed to come here with an open mind so I can learn and be a better steward of my community. So thank you all for having me. I will go over a few things from the 2 sessions that I had. I was over the water as well as energy. And I'll start with the tougher of the 2, which was the energy session. Very, very informative and very, very intense. Extremely intense. All right, so with with energy, first we had was a speaker, Jason, and he talked about energy burden. And he broke it down to say utility bills over household income. And what he wanted the listeners to understand is how that affects climate change, because when you can't afford your utility bills, it impacts the spaces that we live in, old houses that can't be modernized when you can't afford to update housing. All of those things have a burden on the climate. And he also talked about the inequities, like I said, of aged homes, the ages of the people in the home and what investments can or cannot be made. The lack of education was another one on steps to do to get better energy. And the equity to have the money to do what needs to be done. So economic justice is a fight for us all, and I appreciated that statement today. Mr. Eric, in today's meeting, talked about sustainability and how we need to meet today's needs without bankrupting the future needs, and I appreciated that statement today. The 3 pillars of sustainability that he covered was people, economics, and environmental impacts, and he is from GRU. So thank you, Mr. Eric. Mr. Berry also talked about climate change and the effects and disadvantages, how disadvantaged communities would be the first and the worst impacted. That resonated with me because of the community that I've been charged to keep over. That is certainly something that we lead with, knowing who we're serving and that they're not economically as stable as a lot of other people or as they would want to be. And so that certainly resonated with me. In the water session, Ms. Karen went over the regulatory agencies and who they were controlled by, which was at governor's level. I didn't realize that. It's really no local control on the agencies here and what they control. Research who you're voting for. I appreciated that comment. And also about bringing your issues and problems to the board, speak up. Because sometimes if you don't be in the room and present to speak up, then they won't know. So I appreciated that comment from Ms. Karen. Ms. Stacy then went on to say how she wanted to get people engaged and connected to the gathered data. That's extremely important for me because we can collect all the data in the world, and this county is notorious for that. We're experts at collecting data, very, very smart community, but we're not experts at getting it to the right hands and to the people that need to hear it the most. And so I appreciated her sharing that. Lastly, Shane also talked about the sustainability project and how he works on that. And he brought up about wildfires in wrong places can cause a huge impact on water resources, and I didn't realize that. For me over in Hawthorne, I think that going forward, today's summit has made me climate conscious and allowed me to think about policies and practices that we do and how it affects the climate, and not just looking at it from one standpoint of the monetary gain or just the nobility of having what we think is bright and crystal and gleaming, but more so the future behind me and how that will impact my children, and their children when it comes to climate. And so I appreciate, again, being here because now I'm a little more conscious when it comes to the climate and the climate effects. So thank you all.
All right, next up we'll go to the west side of our county and invite Mayor Marlowe to come up and say a few words.
Good afternoon. Before I go into what my community is doing and kind of recap today, I just want to say that today has kind of made me sad. It's made me sad for a lot of reasons, but most specifically, it's made me sad because under the leadership of Chair Prizia, this county had an opportunity recently to tick a lot of boxes of the things that I've learned today. We had an opportunity to partner with farmers. We had an opportunity to protect farmland. We had an opportunity to make ag regional. And here in our home county, we still couldn't get it done. So Commissioner Prizia, thank you for your leadership on that. I appreciate that. Maybe if the rest of our county commissioners were here and learning these things, maybe we could have brought that project across, because I have to think that it is being involved in these activities that helps generate the ideas, that helps look for partnerships. And I've heard a lot today that we need to look at who we vote for, and I agree, we need to look at who we vote for. But even in our own backyard, we need to educate everybody, and we need to reach out to them, because we have the opportunity to do some of the things here, right here in Alachua County. So, you know, I'm glad wasn't into energy. Sounds like that was robust. I was in the water and the food, two things that Newberry's doing a lot on. I believe that my community, and this ain't against any other mayors here, but I believe my community has the most successful water conservation policy in Alachua County. About 4 or 5 years ago, we restructured our rates, and at this point, it's gotten better every single year, but we have conserved more than 7% of our water usage across the board in the city of Newberry, and we've conserved over 27% of our irrigation water consumption in the city of Newberry. And we did that by partnering with our residents. So at this point in my community, we now offer water for life-saving usage. If you're using it to cook with, bathe with, wash your clothes with, it costs you less than it used to. If you're using water to have a irrigation and you want Irish green lawns, well then it's gonna cost you a little bit more. We're also working on Agritech Park, which is one of the reasons why Commissioner Prizia reached out to us. We know that the world's population is going to hit about 9 billion in 2050, and we can't feed that many people. So we want our agricultural community to get with our academics and start to answer those questions and get them into the hands of the people that can actually address that. One of the things I'd like you all to go back and ask your municipalities is, do you have an urban service area? An urban service area is aligned on a map. Newberry has an urban service area. We will allow dense development inside the urban service area. We will not allow dense development outside. Outside that line, it's going to be farmland. It's going to be agriculture. It's going to be forest. It's going to be mining. It's going to be something else. We want to make sure that we have a green belt around our community. So in food and water, that's what we were talking about. How are we going to feed people? How are we going to make sure that the growing population doesn't run out of water? We had a lot of great ideas. I think there were people recording all of the comments and the questions that came about. But I want you to take those things back with you. We can address food. Talk to 3 of our county commissioners and ask them to reconsider their position. We can address water. Come to the city of Newberry and we'll teach you how. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Marlowe. And just so you know, your Alachua County Commission also has an urban services boundary, which helps to protect our rural areas. And it is another answer to the zoning question that was asked earlier. Happy to talk about that at another time. Next up, we will go to the south of our county and ask Ms. Gianna Williams to please come and talk to us from Micanopy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I love quotes, so I just want to share this one with you. It says, "Knowledge is power, information is liberating, and education is the premise of progress in every society and every family," and that was stated by Kofi Annan. I think that that is pretty reflective of what today was for me, just being able to get information that we can take back to our community so that we can be able to be a part of the self-sustaining efforts. I was a part of the food and health panels. Some of the words that were common were access, equity, resilience, finding ways to build those, getting information out to our minority, getting information out to our to our essential workers. I learned about food waste. There's 40% food waste. That was new information for me. The organizations that can help with compost, I'm really eager to find out ways that Micanopy can become a part of that, because we have a lot of farmers and agriculture neighbors there as well. Overall, I'm just really excited again to be able to take this information back and to be able to put it to use so that we can again be able to be sustainable for ourselves and for our children as well. So thank you to all that were involved with putting the information together and the panelists as well.
Thank you. And I always want to point out, too, Micanopy has done such a great job of protecting their heritage and the history in their communities and honoring the Native peoples who are a part of that land. And I really appreciate that work, because we learn a lot by looking to the past in terms of informing our future. So I just thank you for that work. All right, and last but not least, we'll come to the core of Alachua County and ask Mayor Ward to please come and talk from the city of Gainesville.
Thank you, Commissioner Prizia, and thank you to the NAACP Environmental Justice Committee for putting this together. Let's give the organizers a big hand today. So we should do it again, but more importantly, we need to take what we learned and put it out into the streets and make sure we get it done, right? That's more important. Y'all, I would love to brag on what we do at the City of Gainesville, because we do a lot we work harder for green issues in the city of Gainesville than nearly any community that I bump elbows with. And there are a lot of them out there. I mean, when we talk to other communities around the country, when I go to other mayors' gatherings, they're striving to do some of the things, to get started some of the programs that we've been working on for years. I could talk a lot about what we do. I want to very specifically say that since 2018, we have been able to put more than 2,000 acres inside the city limits of Gainesville into permanent conservation. That's a big deal. We currently, and we talked a bit about this in the energy program, we produce at Gainesville Regional Utilities about 30% of our energy is renewable. The average in Florida for renewable energy is 4%. Now, the question is, why doesn't everybody do that? And I'll give you the answer: because it costs more. It is not cheap to do renewable energy. We as a community decided 15 years ago that that mattered to us, that we were going to invest in that. And it costs a little bit more to do it. It's getting better. We're getting to a point now where solar energy is less expensive than it used to be, but it still requires a little extra planning, a little extra investment, and you see that on your bill. That is absolutely the truth. Now, we are reaping some of the negative consequences of that because the legislature is not real happy with the way we do this. I guess they would prefer that we were closer to 4% than 30%. So we're going to change the way we do Gainesville Regional Utilities. It could be different people in charge of it. And that's okay, because it's going to free me and the rest of the Gainesville City Commission up to do some other very specific green energy ideas and to keep our community even greener in different ways. There's a lot we can do, but we're going to need your support and your help to be a part of that. A few things I want to point out that I think you're all aware of, but it's real important to know it before we walk out of here. Environmental disasters and the expense of those disasters, the negative consequences of not doing proper environmental stewardship, of not being green, is primarily borne by people who don't look like me. We all know that, right? Black and brown people, poor people worldwide have to bear the consequences and the extra expense of doing energy wrong. We have a moral imperative, I believe, in this century, in this decade, in this year, to start getting it right, not only in Gainesville, but everywhere. And that means we all have to stand up and get that done. Every single one of us. No matter what our position is, no matter what our authority is to get things done, we have to be a part of doing it better. There are some folks who are going to be okay. There are people in the world who are going to be just fine. They've got the resources that, it might be a little warm one day, but they'll go inside, crank the air conditioner down, they'll be fine. They'll find water. They'll be okay. Not everybody will, and it's wrong to pretend that everybody's going to be okay. So we all have that responsibility. I want you, I could go on all day about this sort of thing, but I won't. This is why we invite Ms. Fowler to the commission all the time, to keep me in check. But I want you to do one thing for me. I have 3 questions that I would love for you to ask anybody who is running for office that you run into over the next 13 months, because you're going to run into a bunch of them. It's a big election year, right? I'm not running for anything this year, so you can ask me anyway, but it won't matter. Ask every single one of them, whether you think you know what they believe or not. Make them tell you the answer to these 3 questions. Number 1, do you believe climate change is real? And I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but if they tell you no, then you probably don't need to talk to them anymore. Second question is, do you believe that it is impacted by human activity? And again, if they say no, maybe talk about something else. Maybe talk about sports or something else, because you probably don't have anything else to say electorally. If they answer yes to both of those things, here's the big question. What will you do with the office that you are asking for to impact climate change specifically? Don't take big, broad strokes. What are you going to do with the office you want me to give you that will make this better? And if you will ask those 3 questions, then people like me will have to think about them And if all of you ask that, then we'll have to start acting on it on a regular basis. And I can't tell you how important it is to get this done. Every day that goes by, when I see us push it off a little bit and say, oh, we'll worry about that later, I get a little more frustrated with it. And I don't have time to be frustrated. I'm 50, almost 56 years old, and I don't have time to be frustrated. I need things to get better now. My children need things to be better now. Your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, everybody who comes after them needs this to start working right now. Make it a priority by putting pressure on people like me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It is political will. We did start with that, right? It's that political will that's missing for so much of this work. But we learned a lot today that we can take out in our communities and help build that political will by sharing it with your neighbors, by sharing it with your friends, by sharing it with your family, and by volunteering as we get this climate action plan going with the community organizational work that's going to need to happen. We're going to need to get this information out to every corner and every community and every organization, and the county can't do that alone. We need all of you who are learning and becoming experts in this topic to help us to get that word out and help recruit more people to this cause. So please get involved as you see more of these sorts of events, and also to help us get the word out into the community and start taking action. I have a couple of quick announcements. The other one is that we have lots of food left, and so if you enjoyed lunch today from our great Black-owned business, Germain's, let's give them a hand for lunch today. The owner is also my neighbor, so I love that it was Jermaine's today. But there's extras, so if you liked it, please take an extra one home and maybe have it for dinner or share it with a friend in need. So please grab those on your way out. And then also, I mentioned already the video. And am I missing anything, Jackie, that I needed to announce? No? Okay. Well, with that, I am going to turn it back over to Ms. Jacqueline Patterson to give us some inspiring closing remarks. And with that, thank you all again for being here and for making this event possible.
Okay. Thank you so much. I will keep it brief, definitely not the 15 minutes allocated. At the end of, when Stephen and John left the stage, I asked them, I was noticing on the remarks, it kind of talked about what will happen in terms of these various things, and I thought, and I had asked a question that ended up in the scrap heap in terms of the questions, but I had asked if there's an assumption that climate change in its worst sense is that's where we are, that there's no mitigating climate change at this point. And I said, is that the assumption, and kind of focusing on adaptation? And so we had a whole debate about that. And sometimes I feel less hopeful than others when I look at the corporatocracy, when I look at the rise of authoritarianism, when I look at certain governors who have held on to power. And I think, wow, is this really, is there going to be enough to turn this around? And then I spend the day with folks like you all, and hope is restored. So thank you all. Yeah. If we could get the spirit of the folks who are gathered here today, if we could get the actual work that's going on from people going around very kind of restrictive policies around energy and finding innovative ways to do microgrids in the state of Florida, if people can to do what you're doing in terms of growing your own food and finding ways to really have local food movements, if people can center health and well-being the way so many of your communities are, if people could just spend a whole Saturday when you could be doing other things together talking about changing climate change, changing the conditions that are leading us to catastrophic climate change like you are. If we can take this whole room and all that you're doing to scale, then we can actually turn this thing around. So thank you for inspiring me in that way, for sure. And on that note, I want to leave us with a a little excerpt from a poem from a now banned poet laureate, Amanda Gorman. And she says, when day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Very much for coming out today. The Queen has stood up, so we know it's time to go. But just two things in closing. One, please join the NAACP. Please. We had some people here earlier, but they're gone now. You can go online to the site. Yes. You can contact Evelyn or myself. Yes. Please join the NAACP and sign up whoever's in your house to be a member of NAACP also. Please. Lastly, if you want to participate in doing this kind of work, the NAACP's ECJC meets, Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. We meet the third Tuesday of each month at 6 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting. They told us to go home during COVID, and we've done just that. So you can join us. Please join us. Just make sure we have your emails. We'll send you our information. And for real, this is the last thing. I would like for my committee to stand up. Please. Jackie, Marianne, Bob, Marvin. Is that everybody that's here? And then we have one other person who's not here, but I know most of y'all know her, Roberta Gassmeyer. Yeah. So Roberta has married off one of her daughters this week, so that's why she's not here with us. But this committee, they are wonderful. So I want to publicly thank you all for the hard work that y'all put in for today. And thank you all again for coming.
Yeah. Oh, just thank you. You said it all. Thank you all. And join the NAACP so we can work with Kawanda and other groups that's working for justice. And environmental justice in this period is very, very important. So join us. Health fair. Okay.
You want to make that? The Queen needs to make give a message here.
That's all right. The NAACP health team will be sponsoring a health fair on the 14th of October, 10 to 2. It will be at Mount Olive Church, 724 Southeast 8th Street. The church is on the same property the Cotton Club Museum is on. Our focus will be. Thank you. Our focus will be healthcare across the lifespan. We're thinking about mothers who are raising children. We're thinking about COVID impact on them. We're thinking about mothers who take care of invalid family, children, as well as those with people who are at the end of the lifespan. So we want it to be an all-encompassing day. We'll have thanks for the children and thanks for everyone, and lunch and bounce house. Anybody in here want to get in bounce? Oh, in the bin. Thank you.
You say that, I think the date was October 14th?
10 till 2, October 14th. And the address, if you want to write it down, is 724 Southeast 8th Street. But if you know where the Cotton Club Museum is, and don't raise your hand if you don't, it's on the same piece of property. Thank you.
All right, everyone, have a great afternoon, and please drive safe.